So I want to share with you a concept because, as you know, I teach closing, right? I've trained tens of thousands of people around the world on how to close. How do you close on the telephone specifically? But within closing, there are actually many different skill sets, right? I remember when I was learning martial art, my instructor, Ted Wong, who was one of the original students of Bruce Lee, and Sifu Ted Wong would always tell me that, don't get fancy. Don't get fancy, right? So in martial art, as we learn martial art, we like to learn a lot of these fancy moves, right? The spinning back kick when I was younger, right? And do all this crazy jumping kick and all that stuff. And Sifu Ted Wong would always say, hey, don't get fancy, like keep it simple, right? And when he means simple, it's like, hey, what is the closest distance from here to there, from your weapon to the target, right? From point A to point B, right? So he likes to do, like, he has us working on the strict punch a lot, right? Because that's the shortest distance. So he said, don't, and then same thing, it's a strict kick, right? Or this, like it's very, so this becomes the primary weapon that we use in JKD, in Bruce Lee's martial art, right? So in closing, it's the same, right? You want to keep things very simple. When in doubt, you always want to go back to the fundamentals of what works, right? Let's say if you're closing and suddenly you're not closing, instead of, I need some fancy techniques, I need more ways to close, I need fancier words, I need fancier scripts. Actually, you probably don't need that. What you need to do is go back to the fundamentals of how's your tonality, right? How's your timing? Are you asking questions with conviction, right? Are you asking the question with the right pace? Are you listening? Are you taking notes? All the fundamentals within closing, you go back to the basics, right? When in doubt, you go back to the basics, and you notice when you go back and kind of strengthen the basics that you have, your closing ratio, your performance will improve versus looking at the fancy techniques, right? Looking at all this stuff, right? So the first level you want to get to is kind of closing on the phone. That's the basic fundamental, because that requires a certain level of skill that you can talk to someone and communicate your ideas, articulate your value, be able to close the sale on the phone. The next step is, so that's one-to-one, right? And it could be the phone, could be in person, could be through Zoom, doesn't matter, but it's one-to-one, right? The next level you have is one-to-few. So you have one-to-one, level 2 is one-to-few. That's you maybe talking to a group of people. Maybe you're now addressing a group of people through your speaking, through your presentation, or through a even live webinar, right, or an event. That's one-to-few. And then you have one-to-many. Now you're going beyond than just your physical presence. Now you're putting your words, your messaging in print, on a web page, in a video, in an email. That's one-to-many. So every single level that you go up in terms of closing, it gives you more leverage, and leverage gives you better results. However, it doesn't mean that you should skip and you don't want to do the other ones. It just means that, hey, there's sometimes you want to do the one-on-one, maybe it's a high-ticket sales. Sometimes you want to do one-to-few because that's the best environment to scale trust. Sometimes you would do one-to-many because that gives you the most amount of leverage. So when in doubt, go back to the fundamentals and don't get fancy. Hi, this is Dan Lok. We're looking to invest $10 million in 100 tech startups in the next 3 years. You could be one of them. If you are a founder of a tech startup, if you are looking for financial capital, guidance, and mentorship, go to www.danlokventures.com to see if you qualify.